Hello everyone and welcome to today's live stream. My name will be Elliot and today we're going to be talking about the importance of a progressive exercise program. So I'm just going to wait for a few people to join and then we'll get started. Any questions at all you have during this live stream, please let me know. Pop it in the comment section and I can get to your answers. But as I said, today we'll be talking about the importance of a progressive exercise program, and this will be for rehabilitation of injuries or just for general health and general exercise. We'll just give it a couple more seconds. Perfect, so we'll get into today's live stream. As I said, talking about the progressive exercise programs and why it's so important and the benefits of that. So firstly, we'll start with what is an exercise program, what is a progressive exercise program. So broadly speaking, an exercise program involves any form of purposeful physical activity, which is structured, specific to your goals, progressive and a part of your weekly routine. So we're going to talk a little bit about what makes an exercise program and the types of components that make up an exercise program. So first of all is frequency. So when we're looking at frequency, we're thinking about how many times per week you're doing this, and we want this to be consistent over a period of time, trying to keep it the same time and same day of the week. Again, the frequency, we want to start off quite slow and quite small to then look to progress, and as this whole live stream will be about, it's about sort of that progressive form of an exercise program. So the first component of that is going to be frequency. We need to look at how many times a week are you going to be committed to doing the exercise, and how many times of the week are you going to be able to maintain and be consistent with over a period of time. So the second component of fitness we're going to talk about, and component of an exercise program, is going to be intensity. So when we're doing the exercises, when we're performing in the gym, when we're doing all of the activities within our exercise program, how hard are we going to be doing these exercises? How intense is the exercise going to be? So what does this involve? So in terms of when you're actually doing the repetitions, doing the sets and performing the exercise, are you taking the exercise all the way until a point where you can't physically do it anymore? For example, if you're doing a squat and you're really shaking on the way up, that's taking it all the way to failure and you physically can't do it anymore? Or is it too easy that you aren't feeling anything from it? So we don't want to obviously every single set be taking it to failure where we physically can't do it anymore. But also we don't want it to be too easy where we're not making progress, we're not challenging the tissues hard enough, or we're not making the changes that we want to change. So the next kind of component of an exercise program is type. So what type of exercise are we performing? Is it focusing on strength? Is it focusing on stability? Is it focusing on balance? Or is it focusing on more the cardiovascular system? So there's loads of different types of exercise we can do, loads of different components of fitness we can train and work on. But of course, this is going to be an important part of making an exercise program, as it's going to be specific to our goals, and it has to match our short-term and long-term goals. Because if our exercise program isn't related or specific to the goals that we want to achieve, then the exercises we're performing are going to be sort of not specific enough to what we want to achieve. We want to have them aligned so we can really track the progression and really progress in a certain amount of way. So the last component of an exercise program that we're going to be talking about today is time. So how long are you able to spend performing your exercise? So a lot of people think that they're really busy and too busy to fit exercise into their daily routine. But believe it or not, there is actually benefits for doing just 150 minutes per week. And that's what we want our base to be. That's what we want our foundation to be. Once we have got to that point where we're doing a little bit, if we're going from doing no exercise at all, then we want to just slowly implement it and slowly keep progressing it upwards. Because as I said, research has shown that even with just 150 minutes of exercise per week, we can still get the benefits from that. So next, again, I'm going to be speaking about why it's so important to have an exercise program and it be a part of your routine. So one way is it can target all areas of your body. So if you're someone who's not focusing on a specific injury, you can discuss your goals with your physiotherapist, and they can work on exercises and certain movements and functions that will help to target all areas of your body, whatever you want to achieve and whatever your goals are. Again, as I said before, it's targeting different components of fitness. So it allows us to put in our routine one day if we want to focus on cardiovascular health, and the other day we want to focus on mobility or strength. Exercise program allows us to have this structured plan and structured routine that we can work on these different types of components of fitness over a period of time. And it also allows us to monitor improvements and progressions. So within an exercise program, it's also important to be tracking your weights, reps, sets, everything you're doing in the gym, just so you know you're progressing and improving in a certain trajectory. And of course, we want to keep that going upwards, Of course, we're not going to be progressing linearly for the rest of our lives. There are going to be ups and downs, but again, it helps to be writing this kind of stuff down, just so we're aware of when something might be fluctuating or when something is improving really well, and we know that we're progressing in the right way and moving in the right direction in terms of our general health or our rehab for our injury. So next, as I've been talking a lot about progression, and the title of this live is the importance of a progressive exercise program, I'm going to be talking about something called progressive overload. So progressive overload is one of the most important things to achieve if you're trying to make changes, whether that be for an injury, whether that again be for general health or general fitness. So progressing in the gym when just performing normal exercise is very similar to progressing from an injury in terms of the way we want it to continually get harder and continue to challenge ourselves to make the exercise more difficult and to make the necessary changes. So in terms of progressive overload, the structures that we're trying to work on, they need to be continuously exposed to new stimulus in order to make changes. So the muscle needs to continually be put under stress, put under tension, put under a new stimulus to be able to change and make the changes that we need. For example, if you were to be going to the gym, and we'll pick bench press, for example. You're doing the bench press and you're picking a certain weight of 40 kg. If you did that 40 kg weight for the same reps, same exercise for 6 weeks, for 8 weeks, then it might be a bit difficult at the start, but after doing it consistently and for a period of time, it's going to get easier for you. So if you just consistently stayed on that same weight, same reps, same exercise for the whole time, forever, then you're going to get to a point where it's too easy for you and you're not going to be making the changes that you want to make. Therefore, we need to challenge that exercise, challenge that movement, challenge that function in a certain way to make it more difficult. And this can be done in a number of different ways, which we will be talking about further in this video. So next, again, it can't be too difficult or it can't be too easy. We don't want to be really stressing ourselves, really putting ourselves under loads of load and tension where the exercise is just too difficult and we're not getting the benefits that we need. But also, we don't want it to be too easy where we're not challenging ourselves and it's not hard enough that we're making the necessary changes. So again, if we're not challenging ourselves, we're not making them changes. That's one thing I like to remember when looking at an exercise program. So again, as I've been talking quite a lot about progressive overload and how to and the need to progress over a period of time, there's a couple ways that we can do that. So first, we want to be looking at increasing the volume in a type of way. So that volume can either be through sets. If you're doing 1 set at the moment or 2 sets at the moment, increase that to 3. Again, this needs to be done over a period of time and be monitored throughout to make sure that you're ready to make that progress. It can also be done by increasing the reps in the set. So if you're doing 8 reps, then progressing and moving on to 9 or 10 repetitions in that set. Or also you can just increase the frequency you're doing. So increase the amount of time per week that you're spending on that exercise program or in the gym. Again, this is going to just increase the volume because by going an extra time during the week, you're going to be increasing sets, reps, and just overall consistency of how much you're targeting the muscles, how much you're moving the body, and how much you're overall functioning in that exercise. So next is going to be making the exercise more difficult, increasing the intensity in some way. So the way we can do that is, again, as I said, all of these other things I've mentioned, but the exercise specifically, to make that more intense, we can look at increasing the weight, so lifting more weight than you did last week or the week before. Looking at slowing down the movement, slowing down the tempo. So when we're moving, performing the exercise slower, then it's going to be more challenging and more difficult because we know that the eccentric phase of a movement, which is the position of a movement where we're lowering the weight down, that range of motion and that movement causes the most muscle damage in a positive way, meaning that when you're going really slowly during that movement, then you can get more out of the exercise from having a slower eccentric, and again, makes it more challenging, makes it more difficult. Also, what we can do is change the way we're doing the exercise. So for example, if we're doing a squat, just with a body weight squat, then we can progress that to doing it on one leg. Again, it's going to make it more challenging, more difficult because more weight has to be put through the single leg rather than doing it on both legs. Again, that's just another way to make it a bit more difficult. So another way you can make your exercise program more progressive is including different types of training. So particularly for injuries, this can be beneficial as well, but it also has its benefits for general health and general fitness. But in terms of injuries, an example of this would be that progressing in terms of different types of training, if someone has an ankle sprain or an ankle injury and we've got them to a point where the ankle is stronger, the ankle is more stable, and then we need to challenge that ankle a little bit more, as I was saying before, in terms of progressive overload, we're going to be starting to look at doing some plyometric training, some stability training, other ways to sort of change the type of exercise to fit the needs of the patient or the individual. And again, as I said, if you're an athlete looking to go back into sport, this progressive nature of the plan is a necessity, because when you're going back into playing football, back into playing rugby, whatever your sport may be, you're going to have to be jumping, landing, and your ankle is going to have to tolerate a load of different movements. So again, changing the type of training that you're doing is another way of progressing the exercise program, albeit you're doing it in a way that's challenging it even more and making it a bit more difficult. So again, an important thing I want to mention is starting off slow is very important. If you're going from no exercise or little exercise to starting an exercise program, it's hard to maintain adherence if you're starting on high volumes. So if, for example, you said to yourself that you're setting up your exercise program and you were going to go 6 days a week and you were going to do loads of exercise in the session, it's a lot harder to maintain that and keep it consistent over a period of time and starting off slow and then gradually building up. Also, if you're going from doing little exercise to a big jump in frequency, then you're going to be at sort of a high risk of injury as well, because you haven't allowed your body to change and progressively adapt. And again, as I said, it's going to be better to do it, take it slow and slowly progress it up, rather than go all out at the start and then completely stop. And I always like to say that the best exercise program is the one that you can stick to over time. So again, training 5 times a week and doing loads of stuff from the very start is a lot harder to remain consistent on than doing 3 times a week forever. So again, it's a lot better to be doing more for a longer period of time rather than it's more important to be doing less over a longer period of time rather than doing more in a short period of time and then stop going and stop sticking to the exercise program for that period. So next we're going to be talking about specificity. So specificity again relates to your goals and how your exercise program relates to your goals. So particularly with injuries, but also within general rehab, general health, general fitness, your program has to be specific to either the injury, condition or goals that you have. And this will allow you to achieve the most out of what you're doing. It gives you a lot of benefits in terms of being specific to the components of fitness, the need for improvements that you need to get better and to improve in your injury. For example, if someone has an ankle injury, again I'll use that as an example, and they've got quite limited range of motion within that ankle, then it's going to be important for us to look at improving that range within that ankle first, before skipping into, again, as I was saying, the jumping and hopping. We want it to be progressive and gradually improve in that way, and it needs to be specific. So we need to be doing exercise that are going to be targeting the certain area of the ankle or a certain area of the body that we're wanting to improve. And again, the program being specific to your goals, it allows you to remain motivated and gives you a why for what you're doing, and allows you to continue it over a long period of time, because you're always going to have that goal in mind of what you want to achieve, what you want to improve, and that will keep you motivated to keep going and stay consistent. Again, throughout your exercise program, as it goes on for a longer period of time, your goals might change, so the exercise program might change. It might change depending on what you want to improve in that period of time. So next, what I want to talk about is rest. So as much as an exercise program is important to have progressions, have consistent high intensities and consistently challenging the body, we also need to rest. So rest also needs to be a key part of your exercise program. And again, having these on the same days is also important, because you can use that as your rest day moving forward, and it doesn't have to chop and change, and again, just allows you to remain consistent. It allows our body to heal. So as muscle building works, and as sort of when we're trying to challenge our body and get stronger, the way it works is our muscles break down and have tiny little micro tears in them as we train and as we exercise. And then resting, recovering, sleeping, eating, high protein diet, all of these things work in conjunction to heal their muscles and heal the micro tears that have happened and make them bigger and stronger for you to improve in your strength. So that's how, when you're going to the gym, when you're exercising, each time you're getting stronger, little by little. That's then muscles having micro tears and then breaking down and then rebuilding even stronger. But then it is very important, as I said, to rest, because if you're not resting enough, then it's not going to allow the body to heal, allow the body to recover. Also, you need to be eating a high protein diet, which again allows for the muscles to be built in a better way, and it allows the muscles to recover and be stronger. And we also need to sleep for at least 7 to 8 hours per night, because as we know, when we're sleeping, we have the most release of a hormone called human growth hormone. And again, this allows our body's tissues to recover and heal, and allows us to be in the best position to go to the gym the next day, or if the next day is a rest day, the following day, and just continue to rest and recover and increase in the intensity. So if you're on an exercise program, or you're thinking about being on an exercise program for an injury, what happens when your injury heals? Should you still be having an exercise program? Should you be continuing to progress? Or because the injury is done, should you just leave it and not do exercise for that routine anymore? Well, in terms of exercise programs, it's important to maintain that ideally for the rest of your life, and ideally for as long as you can, especially because it's important to continue strengthening the area of the injury. If it has completely healed and we've got that full recovery, it's important to continue to maintain that, because we don't want to regress and cause another injury or re-injure that area, or also we don't want to injure another area in the process. It's also important to, of course, strengthen all areas of your body to reduce that risk of injury, improve your general health and overall functional quality of life through the day of what you're doing. So another point about an exercise program and why it's so important is it improves motivation and goal achievement. So a progressive exercise program ensures that you are chasing and reaching your goals over a long period of time. So the desire and the effort of reaching a goal can increase a molecule called dopamine. And I know that last week Ollie did a live about exercise and the effects on the brain. Well, again, this sort of desire and effort of reaching a goal releases that molecule called dopamine, which will help motivation in all areas of your life, and it also makes you feel good. So really chasing that goal. Say you have a 6-week block of an exercise program, and then you've done that 6 weeks, you've reached all your goals, you've really worked really hard, and then you're going to progress to the next stage. That feeling of working hard and that feeling of the effort that you've put in that's paid off, it reaps really good mental health benefits, and it can allow you to remain consistent for a longer period of time. So again, an exercise program is going to be really beneficial to challenge all areas of your fitness and health. It allows you to adapt to your specific goals. So if you want to change your goals over a period of time, you can constantly monitor that with your physiotherapist, and work on what specifically you want to work on and what areas of your game or performance it is that if you're an athlete, or in general if it's your general fitness. If you want to improve your cardiovascular fitness as well as getting stronger, you can interlink them and train them throughout the week, just in different days. But if you didn't have a routine exercise program, then it's going to be more difficult to arrange. So also, there's also no milestone or goal which is too high, but it must be progressive in order to get there. So as I said before, it needs to be a gradual improvement over a period of time, rather than just going straight into it and trying to do too much too soon. So again, just to summarize a little bit about what we've gone through today, the importance of an exercise program and the progressive exercise program has to have the components of fitness and components of exercise in them. So frequency, how many times you're going to be doing it; intensity, how hard are the exercises that you're doing; type, what type of exercise are you performing, whether that's strength, stability, balance, cardiovascular fitness, or there's many more; time, so how long are you able to spend doing your exercise, how long are you going to spend in the gym. Also, we need to make sure that it's progressive and taking into consideration progressive overload. We want to challenge the tissues, make the exercise more difficult in an array of different ways, which I've mentioned in this live stream today. And we also want to start off slow, make sure we're not doing too much too quickly. And again, it's really important to not skip steps. So it's easy to want to rush ahead, particularly if you've got an injury. It's important to want to rush ahead in an attempt to speed up your recovery. However, it's important to listen to your physiotherapist and listen to your own body to ensure that the structures that surround the injury are able to tolerate the next progression and increase in intensity. And again, constantly trying to skip too far ahead on your exercise program or on your rehabilitation program can cause flare-ups and re-injury in the future. So you want to make sure that you're following that progressive nature of of the plan, and you want to maintain that progression so you can constantly improve, constantly get better over time. And then ideally if it is for an injury, your injury will be healed and improved after that 6-week period. Or if it's just for general fitness and general rehab, you can move on to the next goal, next progression, and constantly keep improving within all of your aspects of your life, whether that be function, quality of life, anything that your goals are. Again, it just has to be specific to them. And overall, it can just improve your performance if you're an athlete. It can reduce your risk of injury. It can improve your mental health overall and improve the function in your daily life, but also it can just develop that routine. You can have that set in your diary each week, each time you're exercising. That way you can stick to it and remain consistent over a long period of time. Does anyone have any questions? As I said, today we spoke about the progressive exercise program. Any questions, just pop them down. I will save this video in the chat, in the forum. So if you want to rewatch it, or if you want to share it with a friend, then you can do so. If you would like any treatments, assessments, or anything like that, please come in to On Your Game Physiotherapy, and we can book in an appointment for you. I'll leave it for another minute. Perfect. Thank you for watching, guys, and I'll see you again soon in the next one.